Well, Carl Munson here on what should be OurNet Interactive, and I think soon the Venus Brothers' own page or group. They're with me now for the message, where we look at who. Well, normally it's one person, so who you are, who your message is aimed at, or to whom your message is aimed at, if you want to be grammatically correct, as it's been pointed out to me, and what the message is. So thanks, Selwyn and John, for joining me today. Really appreciate it.
Hi.
Thanks, Carl.
So, Selwyn and John, the Venus Brothers, can we go into that a little bit? Because I'm thinking, okay, Venus Brothers, Venus and Mars, it might be like the Mars. Is it like a sort of paradoxical thing there that you're the Venus Brothers rather than the Mars Brothers?
Something like that. I think there's something very much about wanting men to connect with their own inner feminine, basically. But
Okay.
like you start talking to the average man in the street about connecting with your inner feminine and they run a mile, or they think, it's something that's, I don't know, either gay, which they don't want, or it's kind of fluffy, which they don't want.
Yeah.
So we just decided to go for the planet.
Yes. Okay. All right. Brilliant.
Yeah.
What a great time to be doing it, because I think this, I'm just owning that personally. I just think it's a great, whatever line of inquiry, a great conversation to be having. Some people are calling it a crisis for masculinity, aren't they? But what's your reasons for coming in at this point, this time in history?
I think, well, we've been sitting talking about this for a long time, and I think that I really feel personally as well that masculinity is really in crisis, and it really is the time now. After the Me Too movement, the success of that, what that brought up for a lot of people. And for women, I think it's really important to have a solid movement of men now assessing themselves, softening, getting into their masculinity, and just really working alongside the feminine movement, the femininity movement, the feminine movement, and taking roles. I mean, just looking at figures, 84 men killing themselves in the UK each week. I think masculinity is in crisis, and now is really the time to take a hold.
Fantastic. So we got who you are, and in a way, who the message is aimed at. So is it mainly aimed at men? I mean, the message today, not generally speaking for Venus Brothers, because this is almost like a party political broadcast. Not wanting to put you off, but today's specific message about what you might want to say to who are the who? Is it men you want to speak to, essentially?
It's essentially what we want to do is to address both men and women, because we after a lot of conversing before we started the Venus Brothers, we concluded that most of the problems that have put the world in crisis is because of an excessive, unrelational quality that masculinity actually has. So whether you're like what you could think of as being the victim of all the stuff that's going on in the world, or the perpetrator, it's basically because we feel that a lot of men are very shut in on themselves. And when people don't relate to other people in an honest and heartfelt way, then they kind of isolate themselves in the turrets of their head. Yeah. And they go for addiction, they go for bombs and weapons and guns and ethnocentric credos and whatever. And then they plunge the planet into crisis as a result.
Yep.
So what we're about basically is we're about seeding small groups internationally, just small groups, 12 to 15 people who can meet in a group that's not peer-led. Well, it's peer-led, sorry, but it's not led by an expert or a facilitator. And people have the opportunity of venting how they feel. And they can do this a few times and they get into it and they start to feel more as a result of being able to express. So that this very small relational kind of space that we would promote under the meme that is the Venus Brothers, just as an umbrella term, would gradually, in its own small way, and maybe not so small eventually, soften the human psyche en masse, so that they're more liable to relate to one another. That's what we're into, just men sharing. If you share, you're less liable to turn your anger inwards and kill yourself. You're less liable to get addicted to substances. You're less liable to promote domestic violence, and so on and so forth.
Amazing. Sounds great. And it's what we're all about on OurNet, is the power of the conversation, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If I understand you correctly, you're creating the context. You know, it's kind of brand. It's a methodology in a way, and that's the space. And then the encouragement or the message to other people is come into that space and have a conversation, talk.
Exactly.
Don't turn in like kind of turn. Well, you know, you're not. I'm getting that you're not telling people what to do, but it might be better. The suggestion is it might be better not to be constantly inward and the implosive energy that creates, but more an experiment in what it is to share and converse and connect with other people, other men specifically here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And women have been kind of picking up on this. We've got almost as many women on the Venus Brothers group as we have the men. And these are women who support men in relating to one another. And I think to them, you know.
There's no doubt women want to be met by men as well. You know, it's a win-win situation, really.
Okay, fantastic. So in terms of the message, that situation you described there, you're like a man in the street. You talk to him about, what was it you said? The thing that would send him running off anyway. What
soften up.
Oh yes. Hey mate, do you fancy softening up with me with a group of other men? It's like, okay, you do need to contextualize that. I get it. How do you do that? What is the message on the street then about how this works, and what's the invitation?
The message as we envision it at the moment is that because we experience a lot of men as wanting to be strong, that we want to promote the message that actually sharing your feelings and saying how it is actually stronger than withholding your feelings. Mm. You know, this is the kind of message I think that has been carried down through religion and sort of smuggled into the 21st century, is that, you know, it's a strength to kind of not tell you all the things that bring me shame. It's a strength to not tell you all the things that make me angry and make me sad and make me frightened, because so much is expected of me as a man. And actually, it's a strength to be able to let all that stuff out. You know, it's a strength to be transparent. Yeah. And we don't need to use words like, you know, you're in a feminine or you're in a child or being soft. It's just strong to be able to express in an honest way.
Yes. So that sort of less of what people call therapizing, and more the kind of raw actual experience and the opportunity to share that.
Absolutely.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, I'm just learning more and more about the idea of conversation, and I understand the root of the word is like where you live. It's a French word for like where you live and have your being.
Yes.
And what I'm interested in to find out from you is how you initiate the conversation, because as we're acknowledging, I think it's not easy. Culturally, it's not easy to do this. You're creating a space in which it can be done. How does it get started? How do you structure the conversation, or how do you encourage people to be more open and sharing and honest about where they're
at? Our methodology as we're evolving it, and we're a week old, right? You're talking to us. This group's been going for 6 days, so we're just catching up with ourselves.
It's a phenomenon, though. It's a phenomenon. Yeah. I really see something in it, and that's why I wanted to talk to you. So it's new.
Well, it's organic and it's growing. From my point of view, I mean, I've been a psychotherapist for 25 years, and I ran a men's group for like 13 years. Is something that really kind of kicks the ball off. So the way that we would see it is you assemble 12 to 15 people, maybe a bit less, but very rarely more than that. You assemble them in a room, you give them a talking stick, which again, for some people might be a bit woo-woo, but it works. The person holding the talking stick is the only person who's allowed to talk. You have somebody else with a timer. There's a first round of sharing, which is you pass the talking stick round, and for 2 minutes, 2 time minutes, you've got the opportunity of just saying how it is for you in whatever way you want to say it. Then there's a break, and then the person who has assembled the group, who we could think of as a kind of a peer-led facilitation person, will then maybe give a short spiel about how it's strong to actually share feelings. And to say that, you know, for many of us colloquially, we use words like, you know, we say the word feeling and it's actually a thought. So I might say to you, I feel like you are doing this or you are doing that. But that's not actually an emotion. That's just kind of couching a think in kind of feeling terms, and it's
Yeah.
not a feeling. So we talk about 4 cardinal points. You know, we feel angry, sad, we feel joy, we feel fear. We also feel guilt, we feel shame, or we feel numb. And it's all right to feel numb, because some of us do. Sometimes we're not always in tune with our feelings. And with those points, we then encourage a second round of sharing using the talking stick, where you're encouraged to, or you're invited, should I say, to start to talk more about those feelings with that information. And you may not, and you may, and that's entirely up to you. So it's a fairly simple thing. It's a 2-minute, then a 3-minute share. And that's all the group is. We're keeping it super simple.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And out of that comes a massive, or potentially massive depth of conversation and experience.
Yeah, it's amazing the depth you can get from sharing circles. Just a 2-minute share is quite a thing.
Fantastic. Okay, and you said perhaps a worldwide movement. You know, this could grow around the world. How someone watching this and thinking, yes, I'm up for that. I'll get my buddies together. How do they get in touch? How do they get this going in their area or where they are in the world?
Join the Venus Brothers group. Start a conversation with us. Okay, so what we plan to do is to put stuff up on Facebook that shows you exact instructions for how you can do this. And of course, those exact instructions, you know, you can soften those up. We anticipate that some people who want to run groups like this under the Venus Brothers umbrella are seasoned facilitators. We have some of those people talking to us at the moment. We've also got people who've never run a group in their life, but they're also interested in doing it. And so therefore they need guidance. Yeah. But we would say that just a simple and straightforward share like this, anybody wants to get in contact with us, go on the Venus Brothers group, say hello to us. We will say hello to everybody we get back. And we will be providing over the next week or so vlogs and instructions on the page that will explain where we're at and what we want to do and how we want you to do it.
Oh, wonderful. Because I was in the group this morning, and this is how this connection and conversation we're having today started. Yeah. And what I'm aware of, you know, like understanding what you're talking about, the depth of sharing and talking is very different, isn't it, to sharing opinions? Because in the group, what I just wrote what came to me. I think I sat on the lav on my phone and I saw, you know, the Venus Brothers. That's always interesting. I'll go there. I saw something. I'll respond to that. And it came from a very opinionated place. It was to do with, you know, like I was thinking men are essentially competitive. And then it came into a thread, you know, developed, you know, the Machiavellian streak in men. Yeah. And then I was having another thought earlier on in this conversation about, you know, the whole idea of how it's said, isn't it? Some men say, well, my woman doesn't want me to be this feeling guy. She wants me to be, you know, she's with me because I need to be her rock and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. And these are like opinions and theories, aren't they? Which are massively different to actually owning that thing. And me, for example, saying, why did I say that about competitiveness? Why am I saying that about a woman actually needs a guy who's not too kind of touchy-feely because she wants... And then it can be rooted in something more personal, can't it? Rather than a massive talking shop, which we're all used to anyway on Facebook and end up in big rows with people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just to speak to that, if that's all right with you, I'm doing a lot of talking, is a lot of people who are opinionated tend to stick to kind of like one argument, which attempts to make a generalization out of an observation. And then it leaves all the other stuff that really doesn't conform to that observation out. So, you know, and I'm really into, I have 3 principles for living. And one of them is always play on the playing field. And what I mean by that is there's always 2 poles and there's a spectrum between the poles. Like you talk about men being rocks and hard. And then you talk about men being soft in the way that maybe Robert Bly might have envisioned a man back in the 1990s, you know, the soft man that Robert Bly actually despised, you know. And really, it's not like men are either rocks or they're kind of soft, generous, open-hearted individuals. It's like there's a pole between the 2. There's a pole between the extreme masculine and the extreme feminized man. And what we're aiming for is not to kind of convert men into some kind of open-hearted person who has no masculine strength in them. But we're also not into necessarily getting naked in the woods and banging drums and growing beards and doing all that kind of stuff.
I don't mind doing that.
But I don't mind doing that
either. Anymore.
But you can do this. The point is, you can do both.
Yes.
And there's a playing field between the two. And for us, it's not about like being this particular person. It's being versatile enough to be able to play at will according to your choice where you want to. Yeah. And that's a really important principle in this. Be versatile. Be the strong man. Women like a strong man. Yeah, we understand that. Women like us being strong. You know, my wife likes me being strong. She also likes me being soft. So I have moments of both.
Yeah, and the important thing, I guess, is where are you now?
Yeah.
Where are you in this moment? And then it's real, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, that isn't a question. You're not asking us where we are in this moment. Sorry.
No, God, no. Let's not open that can of worms. we haven't established any ground rules for that. So, what's the biggest thing that you've got from this sort of work? Do you think?
From this,
I think that's quite helpful for other people to hear.
Well, I think for me, it's been a greater sense of self that I've developed. So I've just developed myself spiritually, emotionally, and just actually physically. I feel a lot healthier than I did, in my 20s when I didn't really know myself and I was just a walking ball of anger, essentially.
Wow.
I just wasn't a walking ball of anger, but I was in there. I was very angry, and I just feel that the work I've done, the sharing circles, and the men's stuff I've done, essentially has just really switched me onto who I am. Plus, it's also helped me trust men a little bit more. I think I had a mistrust of men, which probably wasn't healthy. I was in my competitive, all boys school, and so. I think everything is a work in progress, but it's been quite a journey. Yeah,
I get it. And so you can get in touch with who you really are. Is that the kind of?
Well, I think essentially,
or begin to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think essentially, yeah. That's been my take on it. Yeah.
So I was going to say, who wouldn't want to do that? Actually, loads of people don't want to do that, do they? But for those who do, you're emerging and being there to support that.
Well, yeah, and I wonder, the root cause of addiction. I've looked at my addictions and stuff. I mean, that essentially was I wanted to get in touch with myself, so I'm, looking at other things to help me get in touch with myself, alcohol, for example. But actually, I've had to look at that whole side of my personality as well. Wow. So, that is who wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add. It's been brilliant. Thank you for being here, doing the message, saying who you are, what the message is, who it's for. It's kind of deep and wide. What your mission, I think. Anything else you want to add before we conclude?
It's deep and wide and simple. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
Share.
So join us on Facebook.
Join us on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Venus.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you, Carl.
Bye for now.